Are you expecting someone else?
Commissioner?
Oh. Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
call the
I
meeting.
saw him walk in earlier. He's up in the-
Who?
Commissioner Rubin.
Oh,
in the building?
Matt. Okay,
Yeah.
because Charles is sick, so he's not going to be here. And Jody had to go out of town for a funeral, so she's not going to be here. So other than Matt, I think we,
He's not as good.
okay. Hi, Matt. I think,
Oh, no, I'm not sitting on the hot corner.
I think we are ready to start, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Nice to see everybody on this beautiful day.
Yeah, you guys want-
Yep, it's going.
We will start with just the agenda review and adoption. It's kind of light today, but are there any additions or changes? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Jan. And second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then we have our minutes from February, completed by Kevin, thank you. Any changes or questions? If not, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to adopt accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you, Jan, and a second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to start off with hearing about Waconia from Jackie.
And I'm gonna step out just for a second. I copied some.
Oh,
more.
perfect. I'll
Oh,
pass out what I
another
have.
copy. Yep.
Okay.
And then I
No
think,
public comment?
Pardon?
No public comment?
Oh, sorry. Can we go to you next?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to say, recently, my printer on my computer died, and I needed to get something printed out that day. So I went to the Chaska Library, and they were very helpful getting me on their system.
Yeah?
However, then it didn't print, and God knows only why. But they gave me a lot of help there, and then we finally got Bob Lincoln down and ended up somehow getting it printed upstairs. But I just want to say I really appreciate their assistance and got me through a bad problem.
Great. Great.
That's all I have.
Yes. Well, every day, I worry about my Wi-Fi going out. And I know where I'm gonna go. I'll go up to the library and use yours. So
Yes.
for stuff like that, yeah, it does come in handy, so, yeah.
And the staff is very helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know about Chad Hanson, they certainly are in Chaska.
We do okay. Okay, thank you. So, turn it over to Jackie.
yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm Jackie Schultz. I'm the assistant to the administrator in Waconia. Shane Finner and our administrator is on vacation this week, so he couldn't be here. We're just gonna cover a few just kind of highlights of things that are happening in 2024. I just picked 3 items that are kind of big ticket items that you might see around town or hear about more. So you guys might recall last year we did our kind of phase 1 of downtown construction on Main Street, kind of right in that main business restaurant district, and we're gonna be continuing that east this summer, starting at Olive Street and going all the way past City Square Park up to Spruce Street. So it's a little bit larger of a area that we'll be working on this year. Bids were open today for the project, and they should be approved on Monday. I do not know kind of where those bids came in at today. I was not at the bid opening. And then construction is anticipated to start late April, early May. The weather's been super favorable, so hopefully it continues to be so we can get started early. It'll be in 2 stages, and actually we'll be doing the east part of downtown first, so that City Square Park, the construction won't be going on there around Nickel Dickle Day. Will be done in that area around Nickel Dickle Day. And then the second part will be, still our goal is to be done before Nickel Dickle, but we just don't know for sure, but it will not be around the park on Nickel Dickle Day. But the project should be completed before that, by late summer is the goal. So we're excited. It's it's a few blocks more than last year, so they'll be working hard, but we have some incentives to kind of keep them moving and finish ahead of Nickel Dickle Day. Those of you who drive around town or live in town might have seen our fire station, which is under construction. It's on 10th Street, kind of right near the Medallion Cabinetry and kind of right behind the Aldi. So that is anticipated to open this summer. We're gonna kind of do a slow move in. We don't have to be out of the current fire station at any time because we currently own that space. So kind of a slow move in, but hopefully by fall we are fully moved in there and operating out of the new station. Our plan is to sell the old station eventually, but there is actually a well there. So we have to decommission that well before we can sell that old station. Which means we have to have another well up and running, which we are currently in the process of building. So a few things we didn't realize when we were looking at selling that. Our goal was to kind of sell it right around the time we were moving in so that everything was just seamless, but with that well, we can't do that, so. But yeah, the project's really moving forward and moving fast now. And again, the weather has been super favorable for the construction of that site. And then we are currently in the process of hiring a public services director at the city. Our previous director resigned back in September, and so we hired a recruitment firm back in January to conduct a recruitment. We named 5 finalists last week, and we'll be interviewing those finalists on April 3rd. So we'll have a staff panel, a city council panel, a tour, a panel of our management team meeting with the 5 finalists. So we're excited to get a new member of our leadership team on board. And those are kind of 3 highlights of things going on. Any questions I can answer?
So what are some of the things that it's gonna?
So complete utility reconstruction, street reconstruction, basically everything that you can imagine that goes into a street reconstruction project
Okay.
is happening here.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been slowly working through like all of downtown, but Main Street is our true, core downtown.
So where's the library on here?
That you actually won't see the library
Okay.
on here because this is Olive Street, so this is the one that like you would like pass like Hoppers and Mokamaki and stuff, so that would be further like kind of over here.
Okay, so it shouldn't really affect.
It won't affect
Right.
the library traffic, but I know the library sometimes does programming at the gazebo, right, at the park. And the park will still be open, but there will be construction along 3 streets, surrounding it. So it might be, we can talk Paul, but maybe moving that to either a different park or maybe doing something more in Fountain Park. I just don't know what would be best, but
This is good to be aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and it's been an evolution, right? The pandemic sort of
yeah,
pushed us to experiment with outdoor park, and it is such a nice location.
it is.
And it's not even so much that we use the gazebo, because that ends up being a backdrop, but the lawn there and the parking, and then the kids are playing in
Yeah.
the playground, and there's seating, and it's very good. So, like you said, we'll talk.
Yeah, for sure.
About details, thank you.
Yeah, I just, like I said, we're not closing the park, but parking will be limited. It might be louder around there with construction going on and all of that. So just so that you guys are aware.
Thank you.
Not to put you on the spot, if you
Yeah.
don't have this available, but what is like the growth of Waconia the last couple of years in projection? Are a lot
Yeah.
of people moving here from?
We don't have the data on like where people are moving from per se, but our community development director just did our land use and development report last month. And our population was right around 14,500 now. Still, looking to be right around that 20-ish thousand by 2030. I don't know if we will, I think it was 20, yeah, right around 20 some by 2030. We had a slower year for development last year with interest rates, especially residential, with interest rates being higher. We didn't see as many houses as we had forecasted, but we had the TCO expansion going on up by Target, so we did meet some of our forecasts from a permitting standpoint due to that expansion. We are seeing a boom right now in housing, actually. We've issued over 20 new home permits already this year, which January and February usually are a little slower times for some of that. So we are seeing kind of an increase more than what we would have expected in housing this year. And we continue to anticipate growth, and we're currently involved with a study with our engineering firm on some land that we've been approached by developers that want to develop it, but just making sure like sewer capacity, what it costs to extend those lines there and whatnot, and making sure that's feasible before the council would approve any sort of annexation and ultimately development.
And you said the current population is 14,000?
It was right around 14.5, I think like 14,430 something, I don't have the exact number, but 14.5 was the estimate. Yeah, taking minutes.
Do you know how many people come out this way as visitors or residents to use the inclusive park?
You know, I wish I knew, because I am there every weekend with my kids and it is packed. Like, we couldn't find a parking spot there yesterday or over the weekend actually. So we don't have the stats on how many are coming from out of town, but I do talk with a lot of people who are there, and it's like, oh, I live in Shakopee, oh, I live like further west, like in Glencoe. So I know people are coming to visit it.
Yeah.
That's been we get a lot of positive feedback on that park, and was a really cool thing that the city did. It was community fundraised, so that's been really fun.
On the business development side, is
Yeah.
there anything sort of with the population growth? I know we eat at all the restaurants here in Waconia,
Yeah.
but it would be nice to have a little more variety.
I know.
You know, that we go pop down to Eden Prairie or Chaska or Chan for. Is there anything coming business development wise or anything like that?
I'm trying to think. I got a call yesterday. I mean, this isn't official, but I got a call yesterday from someone who's looking at opening an Indian restaurant at the old Ray Azteca location, and was asking about liquor licensing. So he said he wanted to be open by mid-April, which is quick.
Yeah. Wow.
So it sounded like he has other restaurants, so he knows the business and everything. But that was, our community development director hadn't heard anything on that one yet. So I know there's developers who want to get a Chipotle here, and so they've been trying to work with Chipotle to try to find a location. But otherwise, this year we have budgeted for some additional commercial, but we don't really know what that will look like.
Sure.
Oftentimes we see that like residential growth, like we saw in 22 here. We had, almost 200 new units, and then a year or two later, we'll see the commercial kind of catch up with the residential there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see several over the course of the next couple of years.
Maybe some car washes too?
Yeah.
We definitely need one.
We
Yeah,
do, I
for sure.
know.
Yeah.
I know. We hear that a lot.
Any other questions for Jackie?
Well, thank you all for having me here.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it, and
So it's good to hear
all the
what's
work
going
you
on.
guys do. I love the library, so.
Okay, well, you can see from the agenda, yeah. Action items and unfinished business, so we'll go right to Heather to share
All right.
a collection
Okay,
team report.
I'm Heather Wiegand. I'm Youth Services Librarian at Chanhassen, but I'm the chair of the collection team. So I'm here to just give you some highlights from the last year and then give you a preview of what we've got going forward. So collection team report that I submitted has a lot of this. So we've got an adult collection highlight, a juvenile collection highlight, and then like an overall highlight. So for one of the running themes between all of these highlights or achievements is that the collection team has a strong commitment to collection diversity and access, and that's kind of evident as we're going through and looking back at all of the things that we've done over the year. And one of the highlights was an adult collection diversity audit. We did this last year for the juvenile collection. And so the audit kind of shows us where we're at, how we've improved since the last time we may have done an audit, or where to focus going forward with selection and purchasing. And so with the adult audit, there's kind of 3 different methods that we use to kind of give us an insight. We will look at our current subject headings. So there's about 100 different subject headings that you would see in a title record. And so these 100 different subject headings would focus on different groups like indigenous peoples or learning disabled, but then there's also like social subjects like multiculturalism or poverty. So we go through, we see what titles in our system have one or more of those subject headings to kind of get us an idea of the representation there. And then we also look at lists of award winners from over the last year, award winners that feature or are written by people of color or are about diverse subjects. And then we also go through all of the starred reviews from all of the different trade publications that highlight, and then we compare them to the percentage that we own. So one of the illustrations here, we've got a bar graph that shows one of the main pictures revealed by the diversity audit, that you'll see that for a couple different areas. For instance, fiction, we've got 3% of our fiction collection that is DEI. But, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but then you look and that 3% represents 51,244 books. So that's hefty. And then for nonfiction, again, it's 7% of our nonfiction collection, adults, all adult, but that amounts to like 36,000 and a half books. So we're doing all right. So moving on from the adult collection highlight would be juvenile collection highlight. That's what I like to talk about. So for this last year, 2023, one of our youth services librarians, Jennifer Hempkin from Chaska, spearheaded an initiative for expanding diversity in the Storytime collections, and she got this funding through a Charles Dulkey grant. And so this helped us to expand the regular Storytime titles, so the titles that we read aloud in front of kids at our regular story times, but it also gave us funding to get new titles for our Baby Lapsit story times. So those are, for Baby Lapsit, we sit on the floor, we all have the same 3 books that we kind of quarterly read together, and so these storytime books made new kits for us and then also helped to freshen up some of the old ones. So again, by books by people of color or about diverse subjects, I brought one to have I Love You Baby Burrito. This is one that we got through the grant, and it features Spanish. It features different Spanish title or different Spanish vocabulary throughout, mixed with Spanish. So that was kind of fun. Or like one of the read aloud ones that we got. This one, We All Play. This one is written by an Indigenous author, and so it features Indigenous kids, and then it also has some vocabulary, Cree vocabulary. So another one, We Are the Water Protectors, also Indigenous peoples and an award winner. So the funding for these helped us. Jennifer did a great job researching and finding really good titles to include in the collection. But then once we have these books, we need to know how to connect them to the reader. So Jennifer also led a staff training at one of our all-staff meetings. So she was like the natural person to do it because she has this deep passion and knowledge, and having gone through all of this to obtain these books for us, she presented on how to connect readers with the diverse titles, and then also she shared resources with other librarians so other librarians could find places to look that would profile various books that might be by authors of color or titles with diverse representation. So that was a training for all librarians. So when somebody comes up to the desk, you don't have to be a youth services librarian necessarily to know how to connect them with these diverse books. So we've got the adult, we've got the juvenile, but then like the overall highlight, for overall all of the collection, again, it pulls in some of those collection and diversity themes. We work really hard every year to make sure that we are reviewing data, like audits and reporting, And we evaluate the collection on condition and age. And then we're also really careful to be thoughtful and diligent with our selection and purchasing. And so all of that is kind of a culmination in this pie chart right here. So you can see that we were pleased to see that last year's circulation numbers in a variety of different areas were substantially increased over the year before. And so we can see that especially in areas where we got Dalkey funding for a couple of different collection initiatives. So in juvenile print, we saw a big bump because of the STEM grant that helped us get a new infusion of science, technology, engineering, and math books. So with high appeal and appealing to a variety of ages for leisure readers and readers that are seeking information. So we saw a big increase there. And then also with our adult Dalkey grant for health literacy. So those books featured diet and exercise, disease prevention, mental health. So in those areas, we saw some good circulation increase. So we know that we're making an impact. People are checking out these books. We've got what they want. And then going forward, we've got some goals that again will play on some of these common themes. Do you want me to go over all of them? Just okay. So a couple of them, they're all in the board report. Some of them are kind of jargony, and you're going to be like, I don't know what that means. So for instance, one of them is connect with patrons about suggested purchase requests. So we get people, we do a pretty good job of finding books to buy for the library, but we also get suggestions from the public. We don't have this title, can you get this? We would like it in the collection. Sometimes we can't get it because it's maybe an ebook or self-published, and we can't get it through interlibrary loan because nobody else has it. So we have to send them communication so that they know that we can't get it. So we came up with a dedicated email address. We haven't had that before, and a more unified way of letting them know that sorry, we can't locate it. It's just a good 5-star customer service kind of thing. Another thing, we're going to revamp the holiday collection, the kids' picture books holiday collection. It's currently featuring the traditionally considered holidays like Christmas and Hanukkah and Halloween, but we're thinking about ways to broaden the scope to include more holidays that are secular and religious, because, lucky for us, there's a lot more going on in publishing, so a lot more books representing these different areas are being published. So what do we do with them? How do we organize them? So we're going to be working on that. And one other thing, we are going to be, just because we're talking about the wonderful grants that we've got another Charles Dalkey grant, and this one's going to be Libros y Más. So it's going to be focused on improving the kids' Spanish language collection, because we've got the population and we've also got a growing number of students in immersion. So those are some highlights coming up. And that's all I've got. If anybody would like to peruse any of these books.
I like the visual effect.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
On your bar chart,
Uh-huh.
I was just wondering, so the number's like 3%, you said, it's
Right.
really a big number.
Right.
Are there industry benchmarks for what's a good number, or do you have a goal, or do you feel?
You can speak to that.
No, we're inventing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Our vendor Brodark never came up with a good way to measure diversity. So working with our CERC system, CERC we developed a way. So we're measuring it against ourselves. So last year, we've done the diversity audit 3 years in a row now for the youth collection. So we're able to see that growth in areas. And so hopefully next year when we do these numbers, they'll edge up just a little bit. We don't expect a huge increase. If there is, it's going to be because we're weeding, it's not so much we're buying so much new diversity, which we are, but we're also weeding a lot of older books which are not diverse.
Right.
So therefore that will increase the diversity numbers. Having said that, we're going to get a diversity audit of our ebook collection by adult and kids, so it'll be interesting to see what the ebook collection is, maybe what that number is, and how we compare to that.
okay. Another question. What does DEI stand for?
I'm sorry.
Diversity.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, equity. Okay, I got the first two. I
Yeah.
hadn't figured out the E. Okay, and then, oh, this is a question just from what you said. So there's a dedicated email now for suggestions? That's different than the form?
Right, so
Okay.
we came up with an internal email, you know how we all have our
Right.
personal emails or business emails? Previously, we would contact patrons that way, so we would all kind of break it to them in our own way. But now we were able to work with the county to get a dedicated email address, so anytime we can't fill one of these requests, we all have access to it, and so we can all send out.
But we should still suggest
We
something
still
to
do
the
the
form.
suggestion for purchase on
Okay.
the form online.
I've used
Yeah.
that a lot.
But
Yeah.
now we covered if we're not getting it. And
Yeah.
that's a
Right.
breakdown.
Yeah.
And so we need, that's what we're doing. We're solving that with a consistent message and a consistent email.
Right.
Yeah, well, I haven't done it that lot, but
Yeah.
what always surprises me is it's like you always do it. I mean, I don't expect you to
Yeah.
always take my suggestions, but
Right.
yeah, you seem to. And then, I'm not saying because I'm on the board, this was.
No,
She
that's
always,
not right.
she always signs
We
it
don't
board
see your
chair.
name.
No, I filled out that
Well,
form years
There's a
ago.
checkbox at the bottom, board chair and.
No.
Select staff.
I know, it just shows up in my reserves and it's just like,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I
We're
was just
little
like,
Santas.
yeah.
But, yeah.
I've got a few questions. Thank you for being here. My kids love the story time and everything you do personally, so thank you. I sign all my emails, friend of Jim, and none of them get approved. None of them. If we were to be visionary and said we want to have the largest STEM or STEAM collection in all the library systems across the state, would there be a path for us to get that information or even make a claim like that?
Through the state would be hard,
Okay.
but we could certainly do the metro area. We could ask them simply to say what percent of your collection is STEM, which would be certain call numbers, 500s and 600s for the most.
So they'd already be like when you hold up those books, they could fall under that bucket, and
Yep.
running that report would be relatively easy.
I can't imagine that any library system couldn't produce that. And we have a group, the Nelson Collection Development Team, I can ask them to do that. We can see where we
Yeah,
are.
that'd be
I just think we're uniquely situated, especially in Chanhassen, because the density of engineering type degreed parents,
Right.
and it'd be kind of a fun claim to make.
Yeah.
How many books do we have in our circulation? Because you'd said about whatever the percentage was equated to,
Right.
and the math led me to, we have a lot of books on our shelves.
Yeah.
I should know that off the top of my head. I'll get back with you, and I can tell you exactly that number.
On your way out, we can,
Okay.
I can pop in
It's
my
in-
office and
it's
get
in
the
the annual
annual
report.
report.
Yeah.
And I'm not dialed
Yep.
into the staff network right now.
Somewhere between 1 and 10 million.
Narrows it down.
And does it include physical and digital? Like, is part of our collection quote unquote digital copies?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, which is growing all the time.
Mhm.
And we're very fortunate that our county commissioners saw that we got more money for digital collection, so.
Two more questions. One of them, you mentioned self-published. If somebody requested it wasn't available. Can you buy self-published books? I'm just thinking locally in Carver County, we have a lot of people that are published.
Right.
I'd love us to have a policy that says if you're published, we buy 5 copies automatically or whatever it is to simulate if you're an author, you can count on 5 sold copies automatically or of the sort. But I didn't know if we had a path to easily buy.
So one of our goals this year is to explore other vendors and the ones that we normally go through. Like currently, the bulk of our print materials comes through Brodart, and they don't necessarily always have everything available.
Yep.
So,
But we do have the local author collection at Shane, so people can donate,
Yeah.
but that's not the same as buying it. But yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. And then also, what we've also found in diversity, equity, and inclusion, when we look at these lists of things that were published, when we look and see if we could even get them, they're not in Brodart. So the only way to acquire some of these items is to go outside of our normal vendor.
Okay. Got
yeah,
it.
so that's a goal this year, to explore those other avenues.
Yep.
Getting those.
And last question, I was going to
And
ask it.
If I may,
Yep, yep.
just jump in on this point also. One of the challenges that library systems have then with purchasing self-published materials is funding cataloging copy
Yeah.
for it. When we purchase a
Interesting.
Ken Kruger book or, almost anything out of the trade publication, these have already been cataloged by Library of Congress and
Yeah, yeah.
cataloging copies available on our WorldCat system. So the staff time to catalog that is relatively small.
Okay.
For a local author, you could spend, an hour or 2 hours on one book doing the proper full cataloging on
Interesting.
that.
Wow.
And that's just,
Also has to be processed and
all
all that
those
stuff
kinds
is
of
done
things.
for us.
So there's
That's helpful.
back end,
Sure.
it's not a reason not to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a reason to be intentional about and smart about how we go about
Okay.
achieving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's helpful. I'm published, and it was through a big title, but it was technically self-published, and I didn't think through that. It's good. I like that. All right. Last question is this, and I'm not gonna ask you to put your hands up or tell me, but maybe Patrick, you can follow up with me afterwards, and I'll talk about it when it comes to MELSA. But we are looking at a pathway that may relax some of the rules associated with MLIS and MLS degrees, simply because of the robust nature of the candidate pool. Everybody's got opinions on it. I'm curious how many MLIS or MLS degrees we have within Carver County.
We have, I believe, our librarian, associate librarian list is like 40 people.
40?
That's probably, and it's hard with full-time equivalents. I'm going to say we probably have 20 degreed librarians, if you count branch managers, catalogers, and people in the branch.
Okay, helpful. Thank you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to just throw in, since I've been doing this work with the collection team, I'm just so proud of the work they do, and in particular, how much the past couple of years we've used data to drive our decisions. One of the reasons we were able to get the commissioners, I believe, found us some more money was we would show this is how much more we're claiming in processing fees. This is how much our inflation is eating us up. So here's the loss of our purchasing power. Here's what's going on in the digital world and the increase that's going both in demand and how expensive it is. So really, we're not using instinct a lot anymore. As we're doing weeding, has this gone out? And if it hasn't gone out, then why are we buying this stuff in the first place?
Well, this pie chart too, I'm sure we've seen something like this before, but I don't know. I don't think I knew youth was almost double what adult is.
Yeah.
Just never clicked before until I saw this.
Well, the number, because I do the search staff, actually the number of picture books and the number of novels are about the same.
Okay.
So just in that realm, and that creates some really weird things, like by one standard of circulation, the Victoria Library is the busiest in the system. In something called turnover rate. Every book at Victoria goes out 8 times, where every book at Chanhassen only goes out 6 times. And the reason for that, Victoria has a natural amount of picture books that go out. So, and that's since I've been at Chan, and this is a credit I think to a lot to Heather as well, is the juvenile circulation is climbing. It's climbing every place, which is a reflection of demographics. I think it's a reflection of how we've looked at use so much data to drive our decisions. And the amount of AV is coming down as a percentage, because more and more people are streaming.
And if I may hop in there, and also that we have staff like Heather and Jennifer that are both on
Yep.
youth services team, which is essentially focused on programming, not only, but that's a big effort. And so we get this wisdom, right? I mean, that this looking at both of those areas of our work and integrating them, that they're not done separate from each other. And then just the tremendous work of all the youth services librarians. When we put a lot of effort into early literacy.
Anybody else have questions for Heather?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. We're the questioners. Oh, I love the addition of the health literacy books. I've checked out a lot of them. Yeah, they're good.
I just read the stat, I can't remember the 600, but in the mental health area, the increase for adults, because that's where we put the money, 54% this February compared to last February.
The big number for adult nonfiction.
Yeah, that's huge.
Wow. Okay.
Thanks again, Heather.
Okay, so, as I said at the beginning, Jody wasn't able to be here today, but Paul is kind of the backup. Was there anything about the budget or the report that you wanted to highlight today?
On behalf of Jody, yeah, just two, she said, very straightforward comments. One is that the rollover requests for 2023 have been submitted, nothing out of the ordinary there. Excuse me, sneeze had nothing to do with the comment. And also that it's early in the obvious point, that it's early in the year for 2024, so there's really nothing noteworthy at this point in the year to date.
Okay. Okay, and the director's report, just as is, kind of, everybody read that? All right, we are gonna get out of here early. Patrick, you're up first.
17 things, no.
Okay.
Since we have time, I'm gonna do 17 things, no, 3 things. In my report, so if you open up to the Chanhassen Victoria pages, that I'm particularly proud of. Number one is Victoria Living Magazine did a big feature on the library for I Love to Read Month, and they asked what the staff is reading. They did a little feature about the library, so they have that kind of publicity, which is really, really nice. They've done something similar in Waconia, so that picture's in there. Heather, in addition, when she's not looking at spreadsheets, also does some youth work. And District 112 is a huge thing called Hooked on Books, and they asked us to supply a program. And so Heather did something a couple years ago called Book Bingo, and she went out and did that and had, I think, 120 kids come through her room. I mean, there were like, were you there?
No, but I was in past
like,
years.
there's usually like 500, 700 people there, and so she had a bunch of them come through. And then the last one is often when I come here, because they report directly to me, I talk a lot about what the librarians have done. And last time I gave each librarian like 3 things that they had done. This year I want to give you a list of what the library assistants and shelvers do. So I listed their names and just a little bit of what their duties are. And a picture of Jody, who's our newest shelver, getting ready to shelve, and then Kathy and Amy in action. And that's true, what they do, it's not a, well, there's a couple things that are Chanhassen specific on that list of duties, like sorting delivery and doing interlibrary loan, but for the most part, that's what all the library assistants do. And I just feel sometimes that in particular, I get so caught up in all the librarian and the programming that I forget that the bulk of the staff is library assistants, and the bulk of the work is moving materials through the system. So I just wanted to make sure that that got out there. Thanks.
Okay, Kevin.
So our big thing last month was our 101st birthday, and I just wanted to highlight some of the pictures, some of the people. It was really nice to have so many people show up. It was about 123 people I estimated, but I would say that really my favorite thing to watch was the connections, or the reconnections of past staff and past patrons. It was just really nice to see. Additionally, I'm going to piggyback on Patrick a little bit, because I was at Hooked on Books with Jennifer, and we had over 400 people that we saw. So we were handing out prizes, and I had 400 prizes, and they were all gone. So it was just a really great way to connect with the people in our community and tell them about what the library is doing and what we offer. Our seed library is going, and if you haven't stopped, come and get some seeds. The plan is to also collect seeds in the fall so that we can kind of continue the process going forward.
I have kind of a bizarre question. Is this from like old library days?
It isn't.
Oh.
No. If only we had held on to those.
Yeah,
Those
that's so
things,
cute.
I don't know if you've ever seen them on eBay or anything, but they're thousands of dollars, thousands
Really?
and thousands of dollars. Yeah. No, this is a recreation. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Of the old
Like
drawers.
just you just found it on Amazon?
Yeah.
HEB?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's cute. Brings back memories. Yeah. Okay.
Kevin,
Paul?
I have a question.
Yes.
Really quickly. Can I just donate seeds to the seed library if I have extras at my house? Can I just bring them in, or what is that? What is the process?
Have you, they're ones that you've collected from plantings?
They're not. They're ones that I purchased that I'm like, why do I have 7 kinds of the same tomato?
Bring them in
Take that out the
and
rest of my life.
we'll assess them.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Any cannabis plants?
No, unfortunately, they're all tomatoes. I don't do well with San Marzanos. I guess I thought that I would, but they just don't work, so.
Okay. Western Cluster.
Thank you. So, today we had a pickup from the welcome wagon person who we've partnered with over the years, and we've had some ebbs and flows with sending to them. So they went out with, I think 500 welcome brochures, trifold brochures of ours that'll go out to new people in the greater Waconia area, and also several hundred copies of the seasonal program brochure. So Don and I kind of recommitted that we will get on each of our schedules and be more regular about connecting right at the beginning of our program season to get her a big stack of fresh program brochures, and then keep them in stock with the trifolds. And along with that, and I think I may have mentioned it in the report, but just to highlight our partnership with Ridgeview Hospital, we dropped off there large numbers of our trifold brochure, is the welcome brochure, as well as bookmarks for the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten initiative. And each of those documents goes home with a newborn baby and mom. And she had run out early. Said there are more babies being born around here these days, so they've been busy in their department there, and those went out. All of us manager types and the operations supervisors have been evaluating on, particularly thanks to Kevin for taking a leadership role in this particular project, of our schedule software. So back-end stuff is our staff scheduling. We've used different variations of spreadsheets and calendar type things, like right now here in the Western Ranges we use MS Teams calendar, and those get layered, and there's some pretty spiffy displays about how some of that can go, but in essence still it's trying to shove staff scheduling into a calendar, and it just doesn't really do the job. So there are scheduling packages out there. Kevin and some other, Beth at Janhaus Branch have taken a leadership role in evaluating that, and then coming up in the next month or two we'll be work with hopefully purchasing or I guess contracting with for subscription to scheduling software that will actually then, for example, if Cindy were to call me tomorrow morning and say, you know, I can't come in today, or I just get a PTO request, right, is to then take that person off the schedule automatically. Subs will get and assuming that the branch manager affirms that we want that push to go out, then automatically a push will go out to the list of subs saying this shift is available, and then they sign up, and you know it's otherwise right now a very laborious process, and so looking forward to that over the upcoming months. On the back end, I encourage you on your way out, if you hadn't already on your way in, to swing through our children's area, and I didn't put Jackie on the spot when she was here, but we've for a while now been having conversations back and forth with the city about replacing the window treatments, the blinds that are in the library. These are nice and relatively new. When we outfitted this room, is we redid these, but particularly you take a look over in the kids area, and they're just shabby and need replacing, but it ain't cheap. For the number of windows in this building, I mean the sunlight here and the look in from the outside as well as the look from the inside out is just beautiful with all this glass. But so that's a project we'll be working on here at Waconia this next year. And the conversations that Jody and I, our library director and I, are having is how do we purchase that and find funding for that either through the Friends of the Library, local donors, hopefully the city. But as we talked with the city at the end of last year, they couldn't fit it in, and so it's a challenge to find the funds for something that otherwise hard to get excited about, window blinds, right? So, and then fourth item, and just kind of echoing what you all had at the Eastern Branches with Hooked on Books, is the Waconia Chamber will be having a 2-day event on Friday, April 5th and Saturday the 6th. Friday the 5th is Career Fair Day at the high school. And so staff and myself will spend a very busy, concentrated 3 hours meeting with every single high school student. I mean, not literally meeting with everyone, but having an opportunity to greet every single high school student that gets scheduled to come through an expo type of setup. And then the Chamber's done this now for they do this event every 2 years. And they piggyback together that event, which has gone on for quite a while, also with a community expo event. And so for us vendor types, community organizations and people that participate, we'll go over setup once, and then we have back-to-back days. One audience is the high school students, the next day the audience is the public community. And so we'll be there for both those days.
And is your role to talk about a librarian career, or to help them use the library to explore careers?
A great question, and the answer is both, right?
Okay.
And actually knowing that we have, while it's the same logistical setup, it's actually 2 entirely different audiences, right, between Friday and Saturday. But for the students, yeah, there are some students that will ask about library careers, but also we'll highlight all the career resources that we have, which are extensive and targeted for students to use, including ACT test prep and all those other tools that we provide access to.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll bring the spinning wheel and do a trivia game, and everybody's a winner, try and get people to stop by the table, and then talk to them very quickly.
Get the prizes from the Hooked on Books. And then okay, thank you. It's you.
Yeah, 2 things for change. MELSA is change, and for those not familiar with MELSA, 103 libraries roll up to our regional library system called MELSA, and it's the library system that has the most digital circulation of anybody in the United States, which is kind of a cool thing. Don't double click too far in, or you'll find other answers, but it's kind of a pride point. But our executive director announced his retirement, and so we've been down the path of trying to find what the replacement looks like. And I thought this was going to be the year that we would, as MELSA, get the $4 million more from the state government and have a ball trying to figure out the best way to spend it. But when we got his retirement, we shifted gears. What's the path for the next executive director? And the last 2 executive director searches I was not around for, but my understanding was it was slim pickings when it came to the candidate pool. And our goal is to have 12 qualified candidates that we can interview for this role. And if that's the standard, there's one impediment in doing so. Right now there's a state law that says you have to hire an MLIS or MLS degree for that role. And we're not opposed to hiring somebody, there just are so few people that have that. And the candidates that have that, earlier they were talking about diversity, 94% of degree holders look like me. And so we said, what would it look like if we were to do a first round and see what we get for candidates, but open it up for a second round that could be a broader candidate pool, anticipating we're not going to get one the first time through. And I think it's interesting, so I'll share it, because we've got a 4 and an 8-year-old. And I remember when I was a little younger, and I went through the class and how a bill becomes a law. Well, we're in the process of how a bill becomes a law, because we went from a rule change to the Department of Education to a full-fledged law change. And so there's been zigs and zags along the way, a lot of feedback along the way, almost unanimous consent among the library directors, of which Jody's the voice for Carver County. Also unanimous support from the commissioners that represent the 7 counties plus St. Paul to pursue that simultaneously, whether we have to use it or not. We started out saying statewide rule, and we got a lot of pushback for the non-MELSA areas, and so now it's MELSA only. And now we're getting pushed back to say, what does it look like to do it indefinite versus just for this next hiring series? And so it's been really interesting. So interesting that I get to understand what the word lobbyist means, because we sat in a lobby for 3 hours on Tuesday. No, Tuesday, today's Tuesday. Yesterday, Monday, for 3 hours to testify. And then we were told we weren't testifying today, we're testifying Thursday. And so the word lobbyist came from standing in the lobby waiting for your hearing. And so we're going to testify tomorrow night around 5:30. Just the merits of, if our principles are to broaden the candidate pool, if our principles are to broaden the opportunities, sometimes the MLIS or MLS degree isn't the end-all be-all. In fact, Senator Kunish, who's carried the bill for the $4 million that came our way, first time of increased funding in 10 years, she would not be qualified to be the executive director of MELSA based on her lack of degree. And so we'll see how the testimony goes and whatnot. So that's one thing, change within the law, and hearing a lot of different perspectives. Some of them are more territorial than others. We're welcome for all the dialogue, and we'll see how that one lands. The second thing is simultaneous to that, we've also pursued a formula change, which anybody that's close to anything related to formula, this formula I don't think has changed in over 20 years. And it reflects the growth and the nature of our libraries today. It de-emphasizes library materials moving from our territorial county to another territorial county, and it more emphasizes population and growth. And so I had to sit on my hands on a number of the conversations back and forth to wear my hat as the MELSA chair, of which MELSA, Carver County only represents about 3.5% of the overall, which we're the smallest by far of the circulation and the smallest by far on all other metrics. But I sit at the chair and I'm like, oh man, I really want what's right for Carver County, but I have to wear the hat of what's best for MELSA. And I think we got to both of those. We changed the formula, and we benefited. I think it's an extra $80,000 to $100,000 a year in formula change alone for Carver County, which is tremendously needed. Patrick, I think you'll echo that. There's no lack of good places to invest those dollars, and so it's kind of fun to be part of this work. It wasn't the work I thought we were going to be doing, to go find an executive director, a different one, and rule change and law change and all other things. But I think it's all for good and give us some foundation. And then we're together tomorrow on Thursday, and we brought in a consultant to help us navigate strategic plan. So I guess there's a third piece of the changes. Dusting off what was there maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, which was largely a board that was rubber stamping, come on Tuesday and move on, to being very much a catalyst board with a lot of opinions. But where do we want to go when we grow up? And so I'm encouraged at what that conversation will look like tomorrow.
See, Matt, besides the executive director, is there much of a staff there, or how many?
Yeah, we have 6 total staff, and I asked the MLS degree holder question. Half of the staff has them, which is interesting. Most of the staff has been there, quite a number of executive directors, so there'll be a point in the next 5 to 10 years where there'll be some turnover. But that's also encouraging because you've got younger members that are coming to the table too. So, and then we made the decision a couple years ago to skinny back the physical space. A lot of people were working from home. We wanted them to get out in the libraries and library systems, so we skinnied down the space. It wasn't really a savings only play, but we have about half the space for about half the cost, and it's really forced some of those folks to find new places to interact and get into the libraries. And so it's been really robust. But like any organization that's used to doing things the way they've always done it, it's been a change having a brand, like the entire board is new. Mm-hmm. And getting direction from a whole new people has its growing pains as well. And so we're navigating that, and where to get inputs and feedback, and who are the decision makers, and how are those decisions to be made. And so it's an exciting time. Most people are like, yeah, MELSA, it's a throwaway board, just show up on Tuesday. And now it's very much not. It's very, we're in the work, and we're changing. There's got a good change to be had.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Obviously, the MLS and MLIS degree give you an expertise in that area.
Yep.
Moving away from that sort of de-emphasizes the expertise someone bring to the table. What is the flavor of? Are you looking for more of an administrator? Are you looking for just different for different sake? Or?
Yeah, I think great question. One, I'd say I don't know that we're de-emphasizing it. I think we're just overemphasizing a broader candidate pool. And I'll give you an example. The first time we pushed this one out, it might look like MLIS, MLS, or 8 years equivalent service. And I say that because we don't want to de-emphasize it at all. In fact, there's funding tied to these degrees sometimes. There are people that need to look at it, particularly in the libraries. We have, I think, 3 of the 7 library directors across the metro don't have that degree. Hennepin County actually went out, it was very controversial in 2019, and they wanted to lift it as well because they wanted the broader candidate pool. That's day-to-day library. I think that we need to preserve the mind and everything that went that way to get that degree, because you're making those decisions and you're customer facing. When you look at MELSA, it's less customer facing. And so yes, you need to have that expertise, and I emphasize that we have it on our staff. But that executive director is more of a lobbyist, more of a marketer, more of a tactical piece, that it's not as important, and people can push back to it. In that role, is more of an administrator than it is in making the frontline decisions, if you will. A lot of money, the majority of the money comes in and goes out through formula. The next tier down of the dollars spent are dollars that we're spending collectively in service to all the libraries. And so if you put those two things together, the technical expertise that a Patrick or a Paul or a Jody or otherwise would have is more necessary, I think, in the local library than it is at a, I don't want to say it's a bureaucratic level, but it's a less technical level. And I'll share this with you too, because I know you come from academia as well, or at least you come from Crown. There's only one institution, physical institution in the state of Minnesota that offers these degrees, and that's St. Kate's.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't get them online. There's somebody on the MLA staff that's assistant Anoka County Library Director. She got hers online from Drexel. So you can get it elsewhere, but there's one degree program,
Right.
physical program in the state. And so we've also had conversations about, okay, it's important. What might it look like if we hired on the contingent of, in the next 3 years, we're going to help encourage you and help pay for you to get that path. And the county that I come from, outside of this room from library, I'm sensitive to the fact that we're a traditional conservative county. So DEI doesn't play the same way in rural Carver County as it traditionally does in inner city or St. Paul or Minneapolis. It's just a fact, and we have to represent our constituents. But when I talk about diversity, I talk about my first grader, she's now third grader, came in a class that 25% of our incoming class was non-white. Different culture, different upbringing, different experiences. And 20 years ago, that was 2%. And so whether some people resist because of political beliefs or leanings or whatever it is, the reality is the world my kid's growing up in looks a lot different than the world I grew up in. And so I look on the softball field or the basketball field or in the library, and I see my kids and kids that look like them. I don't see the other 25%. And so we have to create on-ramps for what do our libraries look like if we're not intentional in this space about giving opportunities for somebody. Their family upbringing probably doesn't lend themselves to go down a path of an MLS or MLIS, but they might have spent 10 years volunteering in a library, they might have worked at their college library, they might have done something on an administrative basis or whatnot. We shouldn't exclude them from the opportunity, the pathway, just because their first 30 years didn't lend itself to it. So those are just some thoughts I've had that I've gathered, and I might not have said that 3 years ago.
So you can answer this or somebody else, for those of us that aren't as attuned to the library world, academic-wise. So the ones that didn't graduate from St. Kate or get their degree somewhere else, do they have a graduate degree or it's probably just a BA?
No, it's MLIS. Yeah, it's a master's.
Pardon, they have a master's,
Yeah.
but not from an accredited?
No, I don't think anyone goes to unaccredited school because it's a waste of money.
Okay.
They're just all online schools. We have, I'm just trying to think. I worked at Hennepin, several people, that's how they got their degree, and that was pre-COVID.
I think what she's asking is
No,
the non-MLS or MLIS degrees.
Yeah.
Who would those? What would they be bringing to the table?
Yeah.
Like an MBA or
Oh.
literature or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, I actually had the good fortune of knowing Kit Hadley, who was director of St. Paul Public Library and came from the state as a head of housing. So I think what they bring is, one, a bigger picture,
Okay.
and they're much, much more, and Janet and Hennepin was like this, there's a lot of, just explain to me why you're doing it that way.
Yep.
And then as you begin to explain it, you're going, God, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And they can see that because we do stuff over and over again because we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, at the level of a director, certainly of a bigger system or a MELSA, they're not deciding what books to buy. They're not helping people with reference questions, So if they have some of the philosophical background of what a librarian does and what libraries are about, I think you can bring that to a person. So,
Masters of Public Policy would probably be included,
Exactly.
a Masters of Administration, somebody that comes from a college or upper level that might not have touched library specifically, but knows how to do purchasing or hospital administration might even be part of that. People that come from a not-for-profit background. There's a lot of qualified people that just might not have those 2 degrees. And I'm not, our preference would be to hire those degrees if they had all these other skill sets too.
Organizational leadership, management,
yep,
any,
yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of strategy is what I'm hearing
yeah.
in this, less than like the specifics.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
makes sense. I was just curious, I'm like, if we're not looking for that,
Yep.
what are we looking for then?
Yep, I'll go even further, board management.
Sure.
Sure.
Navigating the capital for funding sources.
Right.
Public facing as to how do you sell this to different folks? How do you, marketing is a piece of that, of that degree too. More so on the, heavy on administration though. So, yeah, cool.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Also has never been
We'll
so
be
exciting.
interested in the play-by-play here. Jan, have you had a chance to get in your foundation role yet for any updates?
Well, they haven't had a meeting.
Okay,
It will, I believe, take place in April, and so I will talk with Judy and get the schedule.
okay,
Perhaps I will report next month.
great, thank you. So the rest of the packet is just, the public relations and updates that have been in the media. So that's all we had to cover today, unless anybody has anything else they wanted to bring up.
Tanley, you haven't said one word.
No, I haven't, I know.
You can make a motion to adjourn.
No, I don't think I can though, but I can pretend. I can say aye after.
Okay,
I do
okay.
say aye.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and yeah, next month I'm sure we'll have some action items, but this worked out well with Jody not being, I think the agenda was already set before she had to go to the funeral, so, but the fact that we did have the action item made it a little smoother, so, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I,
Second?
and our meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Should we get home and put something on